We know that the royal household continues in private mourning for the next few days, but for the rest of us, life begins returning to normal. Politics starts returning to normal. And we're expecting a series of announcements from the government this week under the new Prime Minister. And a lot of people want more information about those cost of living prices, the energy bill prices, particularly businesses. We've heard from businesses this morning say, when are we going to get the help that's been offered to households, to private households? What do you say to businesses this morning who desperately need to plan for the weeks ahead?
Yeah, so one of our first acts as a government, obviously, before the news about the Queen, was to have a statement in relation to the energy price guarantee, which means that consumers can be assured that at least £1,000 will be, their energy bills will be reduced by at least £1,000 based on what it would have otherwise been had we not acted. And we also said that we will be supporting businesses. So the energy price guarantee for consumers is for 2 years. We've guaranteed that we'll be doing similar for businesses for up to 6 months, and then we will be offering additional tailored support, and the details of that will be announced by the Business Secretary this week, in fact. So they'll be getting that clarity, because I agree with you, I understand completely why they want that clarity and assurance as we head towards the colder months.
But for those businesses, 6 months doesn't give them much security and doesn't allow them to plan much. I mean, businesses within your own remit of culture, if you're a theatre or a museum or a nightclub or a pub, you need more than 6 months' help potentially, don't you? What would you say to them who say, help us like you're helping households?
Yeah, well, exactly. So 6 months gets you through the winter, the coldest period of time, and the period of time where you will need lights on more and your use of energy will increase. But as I said a moment ago, the Business Secretary will be outlining more detail on this, because after 6 months, we have acknowledged, to your point, that many companies and public sector organisations will need additional support. And that's why we want to work up a tailored package to target that support and make sure that that support is really the correct support. And we'll be doing that in conjunction with businesses and different sectors over the coming weeks. And the Business Secretary, I'm sure, will outline a little bit more detail on this week.
The Prime Minister, Liz Truss, expected to announce a bit later today that she will be pledging billions more support to Ukraine in the months ahead. To people watching this morning who say, can we as a country afford to give that level of support when our businesses and households are struggling with the cost of living? What do you say?
I would say we can't afford not to. It's fundamental that we stand up for democracy across the globe, that we lead by example and encourage other countries to do it. We can't continue with this situation where Putin is literally blackmailing the world, which is resulting in energy prices going up, affecting our citizens in this country too. So what we're saying is that next year we will be spending at least as much in military support as we have done this year to help the nation of Ukraine. And I, for one, I'm proud of Britain's record of standing up for democracy and standing up for the people of Ukraine. I think it's spot on, and we should definitely be continuing to do this. And I would urge every other nation to follow our example.
We talked a bit about your new job, Secretary of State for Digital, Culture, Media and Sport. You've got a lot in your brief, haven't you? I wonder whether what kind of culture are you into? What do you watch? What do you listen to? What do you enjoy?
Oh, a complete variety when I managed to get the time, which has not been very plentiful recently. But, like most people, I love the arts, I love culture, I love, especially in my own constituency, accessing as much as I possibly can. And sport, love grassroots sport. A big fan of Melksham Town Football Club and, of course, Chippenham Football Club, which are both in my constituency. So a big shout out to them today.
Oh, well done, well done. Tell me about, but what would you listen to? What do you watch on the telly?
Oh, I watch a variety of dramas, different types of shows. Also I am accustomed to Netflix and Amazon Prime to relax after a busy day in the office if I get the moment after doing my box. I love going to the theatre when time allows. Absolutely love that. That's a real privilege, but obviously I haven't been for quite a while. So I'm looking forward to getting many more opportunities as this job will allow, and being part of the job.
I guess the thing is that lots of those things that you're talking about feed into big decisions you've got to make over the next few months. And we've been reporting this morning about the The inquest into Molly Russell's death and online protection, online harm that can cause on social media. That's part of your brief. And there have been suggestions that maybe the new Prime Minister would want to water down that legislation, not give as much protection in the future. What sort of commitment can you give to people who are concerned?
Yeah, I want to be really clear on this. We're certainly not going to water down this piece of legislation, because the main objective of this is to protect children online. Our legislation does need to keep pace with the current environment, and we have seen some horrendous and tragic incidences, including the heart-wrenching story of Molly Russell. And we need to prevent that from happening again, and that's why we need this legislation in place. But at the same time, we've also said there is a secondary element to the bill, which is in relation to free speech and adults, and that is the bit that we do need to change to make sure that we're getting the balance right. But we'll be bringing this bill back to the House as soon as possible and getting it into law.
You mentioned as well there, you were talking about watching Netflix and streaming and watching movies. Some people have looked at that kind of subscription model of viewing television as a possible way future for the BBC. I think you've been sceptical about the BBC licence fee in the past. Where do you stand on that now?
Well, look, first of all, you know, we've seen just how valuable and incredible the BBC has been over the coming days with their coverage. And played such an important role in disseminating the information of what is going on and how people can share in that mourning process. But we do need to make sure the BBC is sustainable in the long term. And when we have other platforms like Netflix, like Amazon, it does throw into question whether the BBC can remain under its current model and continue to flourish. And as you point out, you know, it's no secret that I've been a long-term sceptic of the licence fee. But, you know, I make policy based on the evidence and based on listening to people. So that's what I will be doing in the coming weeks and months. And I think that's the right approach.
Privatising Channel 4, is that still going ahead?
So, look, as the Prime Minister said on this, we need to review the business case, and that's exactly what I'm doing.
OK, so it sounds like there might be a bit of room for manoeuvre there. Is that something? I know Nadine Dorries, your predecessor, was very committed to that, but it sounds like you might be slightly more willing to consider alternatives?
I think it just means that I'm looking at the business case, but I will update you once I've done so.
It must be strange, just on a personal level, to have taken over in your new brief a couple of weeks ago with all these kinds of decisions we've just been talking about. And then, as a government, you're keen to crack on, but obviously things had to pause for almost 2 weeks, didn't they, following the sad death of the Queen. I just wanted to finish with, what is the mood like within the Cabinet now? You've got your heads around the jobs, you now want to crack on forward. How do you regain momentum and start?
Well, I don't think we've ever lost momentum. So whilst we haven't been making public announcements and Parliament's not been sitting, we've been working away behind the scenes as well to ensure that we can hit the ground running again when Parliament resumes tomorrow. Our overarching priority is to grow the economy, to help people with the cost of living, and of course to tackle the problems within the NHS, and that's why you'll see several announcements and statements made this week, and you will see that this is a government that is determined to deliver, determined to be bold, and as I say, hit the ground running. There is no time to wait. This Prime Minister has given her Cabinet very clear guidance that we need to deliver from day one, and that's what we will be doing.
Michelle Donelan, Culture Secretary, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
You tried, but you couldn't get her to name any of the programmes she's watching at the moment.
Netflix generally, the whole thing, all of Netflix.